And welcome, the penultimate edition for the 2023-2024 season of the Big High School Sports Show on Bow Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bowfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. Along with former Newman Catholic High School boys basketball coach Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Coming up, we got a pair of guests again as we continue to bring on coaches and student-athlete guests right to the end of the season. I'm going to have to count them up before next week to see how many we've had during the course of the season. But tonight, our coach guest at 6:20 will be the head boys basketball coach at Merrill High School, Troy Pieper. He'll be with us in just a few minutes. And then at 7 o'clock, our student-athlete guest, we're going to go to the ice because we got to give some more hockey here for Jeff Gress before we wrap up the season. From the DC Everest Evergreens, and all Wisconsin Valley Conference second team. A really impressive young man as well as Thomas Passineau. He's been a 3-year starter for the Evergreens and really a good finish for DC Everest this year. So we'll talk to Thomas Passineau coming up at 7 o'clock here on the Big High School Sports Show. I think we've set a record here today because I don't think in any of the shows that you've done over the years with me, it's ever been this warm.
Well, we were with daylight savings time. I mean, sitting out here and looking out the light,
I know.
We could actually see people that walk by and bang on the glass now. We could just
I don't think it's been light at all for any of your shows this year.
No, interesting all the way around.
But in fact, I'm already transferring from the winter sports season to the spring. I was over at Wausau West this afternoon watching practice. Softball practice is underway, and they're taking advantage. And as we're talking over there, like, you never are outside right now. Never outside. And they're out there taking advantage of the warmer weather. And, of course, softball practice and track practice and other practices, lacrosse practice started this week. Baseball practice. Actually, pitchers and catchers were out there. But baseball practice begins in full next week. And looking forward to being outside doing some broadcasts coming up in about 3 weeks' time. But we still have a little bit of work to do in terms of winter high school sports. We're going to talk about the state tournament for boys. We'll talk about what we saw with the girls' state tournament coming up a little bit later on as well. But to start off, I thought we'd talk about the sectionals last week on the boys' side. We saw some area teams have opportunities to earn their spot in the state tournament going on in Madison at the Kohl Center, starting bright and early tomorrow. Actually, no, it actually starts in the afternoon tomorrow. The morning session not until Friday. But, 1:35 is the actual tip-off time of the state tournament. Division I had 2 Wisconsin Valley Conference teams looking to get to Madison. It's been a little while for the Wisconsin Valley Conference. And in the sectional semifinals, you had the Marshfield Tigers taking on Kaukauna and Neenah taking on Stevens Point. The game between Marshfield and Kaukauna, it was a great one. It was a tight one, and in the end, Marshfield able to find a way 71-68. Massive night for Landon Lee. The guard hit 6 3-point field goals, had 26 points in the game. Chris Pohl had 17, 12 points each for Brooks Hinson and also Valen Ramberg. And I have to admit, after seeing Kaukauna in action in their first round game against Wausau West, I thought this is going to be a tough one for Marshfield. That was, I thought, a very impressive win.
Yeah, I thought they did just a nice job. I caught the tail end of that game, and they were moving the ball. Lee, just the amount of shots he was able to, he stretched that defense and had some of those, those players on Kaukauna were running all over the place because I know Kaukauna has a lot of size, and those kids are athletic. And we saw them play live. I mean, they create havoc both on the offensive and defensive end just based on what they can present in terms of their physical stature. And for Marshfield to go out and command that game, own those spots, really moved Kaukauna all over the floor with their ball movement, the way they were attacking, and the way different guys scored. That really makes it a tough guard no matter what defense you go to, whether it's man or zone, and you're running around with these guys all over the floor. I thought well earned and well executed by Marshfield that night.
And again, a big win for the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Obviously, we're going to talk about ultimately what happened, but again, going into this playoff, I think we needed to see these teams win a game like that. We haven't seen a lot of that in recent years, and I thought, despite what would happen later, that was, I thought, a very significant win, not only for this year, but again, as we lay a foundation for the future.
Well, even as those, let's just take, I mean, I know we'll talk about them, but take Marshfield, Spash, and East, your top three teams in the Valley. We talked all year. They went out and got those high seeds. And it was well deserved because it was proof in the amount of playoffs games they won collaboratively as a group, and just across the border. I did some number and figured out, like, by some of the conference how many playoff games to see if we could see whose conference was stronger based on the number of playoff wins. And the Valley had 9, Merrill had 9. It was a good representation of getting those W's in their respective divisions, and seeing Marshfield, Spash, and East, who are the top 3, all show up in the sectional. I mean, they held their they had good seasons. They made the Valley just a higher level than what it has been in the past, and then they went and owned those spots. And I thought that was a big deal for bragging rights coming out of Central Wisconsin when it usually gets dissed in the overall basketball atmosphere of the state. It doesn't get well represented compared to the other areas, and I thought it was good to see them do their damage in their sectionals.
Unfortunately, there was another Fox Valley Association matchup with the Wisconsin Valley Conference in the D1 sectional semifinals. Stevens Point took on Neenah, game that was played at Appleton East. And Spash led 26-23 at halftime. But, boy, Neenah had a big second half, 45-24, and pulled away for a 68-50 win. 14 points for Grant Chodenow for the Panthers. Amon Konopacki at 12. Carter Combs had 10 for Stevens Point. Luke Young had 23, and that name obviously has been around Neenah for a long time. And then we remember when Coach Young was over coaching football at Wausau East a number of years ago, and every time you see another of those young kids come through, it's like, could have been over here, over here at Wausau East.
I saw that.
But Luke Young, 23, 19 for Brady Corso. But for Stevens Point, I think a foundation has definitely been rebuilt at Stevens Point. It hasn't been that long since the Panthers were running up a long stretch of state championships, and from everything we hear, not only these players are coming back, more talent's coming in as well. So Stevens Point's going to be a handful next year.
Yeah, I hear a lot about some of their levels at the freshman level, 8th grade level. They have some good athletes, some size in that class, some real potent kids that are going to be adding to some of the true caliber good players that they already have. I mean, they finished 23-4, 9-3 in the conference, had a chance to be up in that top spot at times, just didn't pull them out. But an overall successful season, and they've kind of reestablished themselves as a good team, or a great team in the Valley, as well as a good team in Central Wisconsin. Neenah was one of those teams that they always just hang around long enough, do what they need to do to get it done, and you saw it the next night against Marshfield. But for Spash, good season, good things are built, and the amount, like we've already talked about, the amount that the Valley has coming back for next year. There's good players lost to graduation, but there's still a lot of guys coming back. And
in that sectional championship game last Saturday, Marshfield had a 26-20 lead at halftime, but Neenah came back, knocked off Marshfield 52-48. Disappointing, obviously, to be that close. And what it's like to lose by 4 points in a sectional final. And for Marshfield, what a terrific season. On Saturday, 16 points for Brooks Hinson, Wisconsin Valley Conference Player of the Year. Chris Pohl added 13. Landon Lee was held to 10 on Saturday. And again, Neenah, number 6 seed. And we've seen that the last couple of years in that bracket. It's a very difficult bracket. Last year, what was it, a 7-9 or something? I mean, a couple of high teams were fighting for the. And the thing is, when you saw Wausau West 15-9 going into the playoffs, being a number 12 seed, and just really deep when it came to the number of good teams. But still, a Neenah team that really did the job. Neenah beating the number 2 seed Stevens Point, and then beating the number 1 seed Marshfield, and obviously earned their trip to state. And they're always at state. I think I thought it was 30 times now they've made it to state. Just an unbelievable number.
Well, it just builds on itself once you get that. And I know, like Coach Jacobson talked in his interview before the game about his players, before the marathon sectional final, that this stuff just starts to build. They see other teams do it, then they want to do it. Then they take some personal pride in it, and then it almost becomes habitual because it's a letdown if you don't accomplish it. So these players work hard enough to get to that spot. And for Marshfield, an outstanding season at 25-3. Another Valley conference championship, which is not easy to do, unblemished record in there. So a lot to be proud of. They have more, a lot of all their key guys are coming back. I think they lose one senior in that starting rotation. If I'm one or two, I know one for sure.
No, they're basically bringing pretty much everybody back.
Yeah, the heavy hitters are coming back. So, they're going to have good things for years to come, but just a tough one. I mean, that game went back and forth, and until the last 3 minutes or so, Nina all of a sudden came alive. One of the players, I don't know all their personnel, but I know one of those players hadn't scored a lot. In the last 5 minutes, he had like 12 or 14 points. He went off for a couple threes, got to the basket. They hit their free throws. So, Nina kind of went in there and swiped that one away at the end, just based on shooting the ball a little better and not making as many mistakes. But, no letdown on Marshfield's part. They still had their chances and just missed a couple open looks that had fallen for other times in the year for them.
Division II, another Wisconsin Valley Conference team involved, Wausau East, and they saw their season come to an end in the sectional semi against River Falls, 75-65. It was a 1-point game at the intermission, and then River Falls outscored the Lumberjacks, pulled away late, outscoring East 46-37 in the second half. East had 4 players in double digits on Thursday night, 21 points for Jesse Napgazik, 13 points each for Jaden Garrett and Isaac Roswadowski, 11 points for Caden Worth. I assume you saw the game?
Yep, I watched.
What did you see? What was the main difference maybe in terms of allowing River Falls to eliminate the Jacks?
Well, just I guess we'll start with the positives and the good things. 19 wins for the season, third place in a tough Valley, 8-4 record, which is outstanding. They played twice, so the game started off. You get in those games, and sometimes you don't shoot that well. You're on edge. Your team's a little bit worried about. You're just worried about the shots falling and maybe can make a couple mistakes. So they got down 12-0, and then out of all the people, Kaylee hits a 3. Which ends up being his only 3 of the game, but then they chip away, to the point where they come back, and it's a tight game. Then River Falls goes on another run. Kid gets a couple. They had an outstanding 3-point shot on the team that had a couple shots he was drilling, and then again down 24.
Joey Butts.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because I know my son was laughing at it which is a cool middle school thing to do, right?
Exactly.
So
and he showed your kid.
Yeah. So he goes. It goes 24-12, but East comes back again to the point where it's 1 point at halftime, and then it just back and forth. Biggest thing I saw with a couple times, River Falls did a nice job rotating the ball and just kind of hit that open look when they can, or got a quick offensive rebound, second chance off a long shot, which is you're going to miss some box outs, but you don't want to give up those looks where you do so well to get them to take the shot they want, they miss it, and then you miss out on. And then just a tough night at the charity stripe too. They had a couple woes on the free throw line, but overall I thought for in those situations it isn't easy being down and to keep coming back, and they did that a couple times. They played exceptionally hard. I saw that defense step up throughout the season. They had a ton of offensive weapons, and I enjoyed their balance between the senior class they had and the juniors they had, and I thought it was just a good mix, which led to the successful season that they had with the good conference record and good overall record.
And sometimes the shots just don't drop. And looking at the numbers, 3 of 19 from 3-point range. I mean, that's another night you make 6, 7, 8s, and it's a completely different game. I mean, and I always talk to coaches. You're always a genius when that ball goes in the hole. I mean, you can do everything right. You can run a great set, but if you don't make the shot, what's going on out there? Some nights you're just not hitting the shots, and you just hope that you can battle through it on those nights. And unfortunately, when you get deeper into the playoffs, it's just more and more difficult. And when you have 8 3-pointers to 3, that's again a significant amount. Yeah. Exactly right. So
they struggled to shoot the ball well. Thought the players again, as they had in this playoff run stretch, they've been playing extremely hard and all over the ground. But just again, that could be a little difference. Everybody's playing hard at this point, so shots don't fall. A tougher time out there.
Absolutely. And then River Falls was not able to win their sectional. They lost in the sectional championship game to West Salem, 66-58. Division IV, we talked about this quite a bit last week, turned into a bit of a Merrill Conference South Division tournament again, and then it led to a massive final, basically, in that tournament, because we talked about Marathon beating Stratford and Edgar falling to Auburndale. And then Marathon and Auburndale last Thursday night game that we had right here on Bow Falls Radio. And you have to, I give a big tip of the cap to Coach Chad Weinfurter, because my thought is, I bet you he kept everything under his hat that last regular season game. He did not show anything in terms of what he was going to try to do to slow down Grant Warren, because in the final regular season game, Grant Warren at 43 points just was massive and just really rolled over Auburndale. And then Thursday night, Auburndale came out there and they had a defense where I don't think I said Grant Warren's name for the first 5 minutes of the game, because they were saying, we are going to cover Grant Warren. We're going to make you adjust. And in the first half, Marathon was not able to hit a lot of shots. I think a big play in the game that may have got a little under the radar after everything that ultimately finished was the True Thurs three-pointer from beyond the half-court arc at the buzzer, because instead of a 6-point lead for Auburndale at the intermission, it gave Marathon a 3-point deficit, and then they came out and started the second half on a big run, took an 11-point lead, but then Auburndale would just keep making shots when they needed to. Every time it looked like Marathon was about to throw the knockout punch, Auburndale would respond, and in the end, just was down to the last shot. A 3-point field goal missing, 57-54 Marathon. It was just a great playoff game. And I just give such you talk about the coaches in that league, because you faced off against a lot of these guys. I thought what Coach Weinfurter did to get his team in the best position to win was outstanding. And then as the game went on, you saw what Coach Jacobson was able to do. And I thought the Coach Jacobson, he had to go very short on his bench. Yep. He made adjustments and ultimately able to get the W.
Well, and for just take Auburndale, for example, starting out in that game to limit Grant Warren's touches, they were all over the place. I mean, they would swing the ball towards Grant Warren's side, and there's guys splitting the guy that they're guarding and dipping back so they can't get the easy dump down in. The guy on the backside side them. They got another guy hanging on the help side, Lauren. So I mean, they were all over that one from the get-go to try to limit his touches and say, go ahead. And then, once you get going on that, you take a team out of a routine like that, and they're missing their shots, you're well within it. So, just the cool part about that game, I just thought it was just punch for punch. But we've talked about how these little, like, at halftime, you just say, I'm not going to follow them. I don't want to touch them. Kind of a little bit uncontested. Let them fire it, and it goes in. It could be a big momentum swing. And it ends up being that for Marathon and that chart. But even down to when Coach Weinfurter was able to match everything with what he ran, that final play. They got a good look on that three-point line. Nice little touch, flick pass, and the shot goes up, and it's there. And even if there's another half a second on, there was somebody that ran in there and got the rebound to tip it back in. There's just no time left when he caught it. So the execution on the players' parts on both teams in this high-percentage game, it's just tough. It could have gone either way, and you got to give your props to both sides and how hard they worked and the outstanding job they were able to do, and the game Auburndale was able to give them, because both times Marathon handled those other two regular season games, and in that atmosphere, Marathon was able to finish it out as they had, but nothing was easy, and it was well earned for a very good basketball team that moves the ball exceptionally well. I mean, Marathon, we'll talk about their strengths later, but man, can they move the ball. And
also, Tyler Underwood had the game of his career. I mean, when you have your number one scorer get basically taken away for much of the game, you had to stand up with somebody else. And Tyler Underwood hit 10 of 12 from the field. He hit 3 of 3 from three-point range. He had 8 of 10 free throws, added 6 rebounds as well, 31 points. It took a Herculean effort by somebody other than Grant Warren to get a win for Marathon, and that's what a team has to do.
Well, that's what a good team does. Somebody else will step up, pick up the P when things are going well. And it's not like the other guy's not going to do the things he can do. He'll still occupy space. He might do it in a different way. Now he's getting rebounds. Now he's hitting the extra pass. Now he's getting the ball to a guy that's coming off his screen. So, they do some stuff so well as a team. That what makes them tough to beat. But that's the other thing. You talk about Warren just because of his size and the numbers he puts up. There's a lot of quality players on there. Just even taking their starting lineup with the 3 seniors and the 2 sophomores they have in there, they're good, and they play off each other so well that another player can be dangerous. And Underwood's done that throughout. Like he did it last year, he's done it this year. Where I saw him step up a couple times when Newman last year went after Warren and tried to keep him in contention on the court, and Underwood goes off and hits the outside shot like he's capable of doing. So that's what you need out of teams that are making it down there.
And then on Saturday, sectional championship game at DC Everest. Marathon, Bonduelle. Both teams came in 26-1, and it was a game Marathon led pretty much throughout, but Bonduelle did not go away. They kept within striking distance, and in the end, Grant Warren, 27 points, 14 rebounds. Underwood, another great game. He had 19 points for Marathon, and Drew Wolfel had 9, and Marathon able to win it by 7. Real impressive sophomore center for Bonduelle, Ryan Westrick, but he ran into Grant Warren, whose defense, I think, was just as important as the offense was. That kid is going to be a force in the CWC East for the next 2 years. I mean, he is.
That sophomore kid was good.
Yeah, he is big. He did not look intimidating, but Grant Warren was just used his experience.
2 years older.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great battle, and for Marathon, again, they had to execute at different times. As I said, Bonduelle. Bonduelle just kept coming back at them, and again, just earning their trip to state was Marathon.
Yeah, and what I liked about Marathon and the way they played, just the stinginess in their defense and hands up and not Bonduelle hit some tough shots. Like they would go off the dribble, pull up, and they'd have Marathon kid right in his face, and he'd drill that. That was what would keep, they'd get down 2, Bonduelle would drill that shot. Get down 3, Bonduelle would drill that shot. But they had hands in the face. They were, under
It
contention.
was great, because going into the game, Coach Jacobson told me that, he expected 30-plus threes attempted by Bonduelle. That's their game. And they attempted 39, but made only 8. That's that's like 20%.
Yep.
Really, the defense there for Marathon that made it. And there were times where they missed by big margins because the defense was that good.
I thought it was outstanding all game because it just kept them out of their comfort zone. Bonduelle, as much because they're a good team and they have good players, they kept answering, but it wasn't ever easy, and they they never seemed to get comfortable. And I think that's what good teams that play great defense do. You might get away with doing a couple things you want to do offensively, but you're not going to be comfortable throughout the game. And if we can keep you more uncomfortable than getting in your comfort zone, that's going to be a big thing for them. And I thought Marathon, just that and the ability of how they move the ball. They just wait for your mistake and they snap it. And the polished off on some of the ball fakes, the polished off moves on some of the shot fakes, I thought were a big deal because they took some nice looks into there with that extra pass. And just the patience they had on offense, I thought was great all night.
And Division 5, the guy that you faced in the playoffs a lot of years, Joe Konishny and Columbus Catholic, able to finally barge through. They've been knocking on this door for a couple of years, and they were able to finally finish it off. Wins against Royal by 3 points and Cashton by 3 points. I mean, they played a couple of tight games, and boy, when you win one tight game in the playoffs in a sectional, you feel really good. When you win 2 tight games like that, it's like, holy cow, let's get on the bus and get to Madison.
Well, 27 wins. They won their conference 14-0, and I just when I watch Coach Joe's team play, he gets those kids to their strengths. They're never that big. Compared to the other teams they play, they're always a little undersized, but they play such scrappy, quick hands, feet moving all over the place defensively, and they're never going to let you get up and down the floor. You're going to press you full court. They're going to drill the 3 on you if you don't come out by that arc. And then once you do that, they're going to try to blow by you with the ball handling skills that he develops in these kids. I can't remember the day. I thought I read he's got 400 wins, or he's really close. I mean,
and how many against Jeff Gress?
I don't even want to count because there's more than I'd like him to have. But he does an outstanding job. And for him too, on the side note, he talked about this on one of his interviews that I saw earlier in the week. Just the stuff that him and his son went through with the car accident stuff. This is about good kids, good people, also working through some of the hardships of life and getting a reward for that, a little extra perk of making it down there. So for his team, and to boot, you're in a good spot when those 3 guys, Jacoby and Konishny, and I think there's all 3 of those guys were player of the year in that conference. I've never seen a try or whatever, I don't even know what to call it, a try player of the year. So that tells you you're working with some good guys.
Also in D5, Alman Bancroft earned a state spot. They had defeated 3 Lakes, and then Reedsville in the sectional final. And Salon Springs is also there from the northern part of the state. So I guess the smaller school divisions are the ones that got sort of if you're going to take a pretty big circle around our area, those are the divisions that will be most well represented when the tournament gets underway tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess selfishly I'm hoping for a Columbus Catholic Alman Bancroft in D4 just because that'd be a lot of fun. But I didn't get to see Almond a lot, just followed their record and undefeated in conference. And again, two of their players, Coach Kurt Lamb, his son, and the Phillips kid, who's their leading scorer, and Lamb's not behind by much at 18, and the other kid's averaging 25. They both were player of the years in their conference. I mean, so just some outstanding players you're working with to not only win their conferences, but then also get down there. And again, they have a lot of moving parts. I saw they have when you look at their lineup, they had the hustle guy, the guy that does the dirty work. They had the big kid in the middle that owns that paint area. They had the outside shooter, they had the ball that could control the guy that could control the tempo and pace of the game, and your on-floor leader and your outside shooter. They have all those key components. So that's what makes them tough to beat when they've got such a diversified game, plus a coach that's been there for 25 years. And another feel-good story in my mind, never made it to state yet, done this for 25 years. I think he's knocking on the door, or has 400 wins too, and finally gets his punches. He gets to go down there with his team, and well deserved, and just an outstanding feeling, because everybody knows, if you've ever experienced those state trips, how cool those memories are, and that's the dangling carrot that everybody wants to get to.
Exactly right. And again, I think you look, and we're going to talk more about the matchups a little bit later on, but I saw the Salon Springs sectional final, and they're the number 4 seed, and I was very impressed. I think the Division 5 games are going to be very entertaining on Friday morning when they get going. And as you said, I mean, having those initial appearances where it's brand new. I mean, for Salon Springs, the first time ever going to the state tournament, and you just know that for a small community making the long trek, but it's going to be just nothing like that first appearance. I mean, you see so many. We mentioned Nina 30 times. I mean, it's like, they're just used to it. But
Right.
when you have an opportunity then for the first time, that's again, you're going to see it in the faces of everybody involved when the introductions are made just after 9:00.
Oh, definitely. And things that you're going to just, obviously you have the little hangover where they might not shoot the ball that well because it's just a new atmosphere, but then they get going, they get the crowd into it. It just builds. And for a small community, it's such a big deal, especially way up in the north where it's not, that representation's not always there. So they get that on top of that to represent the northern part of the state.
A few years ago when Newman played up there, they have a co-op for their football, 8-player football, real nice area. I mean, it's a long way from there to get to Madison, but
Right.
I'm sure they're not complaining about it this year.
And they'll be represented by that small community.
Exactly. So that's what happened involving the sectional boys semifinals and finals last week. Again, we will talk about the state tournament that gets underway tomorrow, including a game that in 24 hours, I will be on the air for the pregame from the Kohl Center.
Fun times.
There you go. So a marathon taking on Kenosha St. Joseph Catholic tomorrow night, 6:20 airtime, and we'll talk about that matchup and the other state matchups coming up. We're going to take a timeout, come back in 3 minutes, and be joined by our coach guest for this week, the head boys basketball coach of the Merrill Blue Jays, Troy Pieper, coming up. And then a little bit later on, we'll have our student-athlete guest from DC Everest, their outstanding junior hockey standout, Thomas Passineau. That's all coming up here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Now you can organize and create lasting memories by converting your photos and memories into digital photos you can share with family and friends. Picks and Pieces will create your custom photo books and slideshows that are perfect for family gatherings, weddings, or any special events. You'll receive your finished product on an external hard drive or cloud service of your choice for easy viewing and sharing. Contact Melissa at Picks and Pieces Photo Management and Digital Organization at 446-0762. Email mel@picksandpieces.com.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
5 exciting championship games highlighted the girls basketball state tournament over the weekend. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by NFHSnetwork.com. More high school sports news after this.
Do you ever wish you could be in two places at once? With homework, carpool, practice, and everything else, sometimes you just can't make it to every game. But the NFHS Network's streaming platform makes that a little easier. For just $11.99 a month, you can watch unlimited high school sports live and on demand, at home or on the go. You can watch online or on one of our mobile or connected TV apps. Visit NFHSnetwork.com and subscribe today to never miss another game.
What a weekend it was for girls basketball at the Resch Center in Green Bay, which saw a 10,000-person boost in attendance this season. The fans got their money's worth, including some incredible games on Championship Saturday. In Division I, Arrowhead outlasted Neenah 69-59, as sophomore Natalie Cuso was tremendous with 26 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. It helped overcome a big performance by Neenah's Allie Zabel, who had 35 points in the title game after a 40-piece in the semifinals. The UConn recruit was named the WBCA Ms. Basketball earlier in the week. For the third straight year, Notre Dame and Pewaukee met in the Division II championship game, but Pewaukee got the upper hand this time in a 60-52 victory, ending Notre Dame's run of 3 straight championships. Edgewood edged out Xavier to claim the Division III title 55-52. Laconia was a repeat winner in Division IV, taking down Cuba City 47-43. The Division V title game was a thriller, going to overtime, as Albany Monticello rallied from a 5-point deficit with 30 seconds left in regulation to force the extra period. There, the Space Stallions would claim the championship in the co-op's first season of existence as the 4th seed won 57-54. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes. Time now for our coach guest for this week, the head boys basketball coach of the Merrill Blue Jays, Troy Pieper. Coach, good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Had a
nice
chance
studio.
I had a chance to see you Thursday as Merrill was hosting that Division IV sectional semifinal. You did a wonderful job hosting, I'll tell you that much. It was a great atmosphere. Great
game.
Yeah, great game.
We could have just recorded our half-hour conversation.
I know.
And
during the weekend, I was thinking about that because we always get you on. And we'll throw it out there. I mean, most of the time we try to get guys on that after they had a nice win because it's a lot easier to talk about things after a good win. It was a bit of a struggle at times this season for your team. But in the end, you got the playoff win, then you gave Wausau East all they could handle. Obviously, ups and downs this season. How would you describe it? I know that you had to go through a lot of adversity, but that's one of the things about sports, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everybody faces adversity, so, it's just how you face it. If you use it as an excuse, then you're not going to improve. I thought we, you asked me, I think, on Thursday, was it a disappointing season? And it wasn't a disappointing season because, one, the Valley was way better than it's been in a long time. Mm-hmm. So it was a tough row that way, being the small team in that conference. But, I look at it, we were 4-2 in the GNC. We're going to be in the GNC in 2 years. We're 4-2, beat the team that tied for the conference championship. Losses to Medford in a close game and got beat handily early on against Mosinee, and we did. It seemed like every time there was a little bit of adversity from the get-go, like coming out of Thanksgiving break, boom, lose the starter for the year, and then it just you get your bearings, and then there's something else, and then there was something else. So it was that kind of year, but the kids didn't stop battling. There was a lot of positives. We went down after facing that adversity to Shawano for the first game, not knowing really what we were going to get. I mean, we were younger. It's probably the youngest team that I've had. I have not, besides Ryan Peterson when I was at Pines, I haven't had a freshman on varsity. So not only have a freshman, but a freshman that starts 90% of the time in Tyson. Mm-hmm. So you really don't know game to game. And with the conference being so good, I look at it, again, like GNC, we were 4-2. I think that is kind of our I mean, it is. I mean, we're D2. That's an all D2 conference.
Right.
You know. I also look at even in years that we kind of play well. First time against second time, going through the conference second time. Besides West, the second time they got us real good. But every other team, we significantly improved. We had East at home up 1 halfway through the second half in a very, very questionable technical, kind of changed the momentum and flow of that game. Marshfield, talking about how good Marshfield is, we held Hinson to 4 points and Pole to 3, a combined 7 points, 2 of the best players in our conference, and still lost by 25. They got away in the second half, but we hung around longer than we did the first time. East beat us handily the first time. The second time, we lost by 8. The last time, up 4 at halftime, kind of dictated the tempo and pace of the game. Second half, we had too many live ball turnovers, and Napgesek kind of took over and lost by 8 again. But I look at those kind of things because the conference is really tough right now. It's not getting any easier.
Right.
It's just not. It's a whole other level next year. I mean, pretty much every top 3 or 4 teams are bringing pretty much everyone back. But I didn't see it as a disappointment because the kids never gave up. They just kept grinding. With losing people, we had to change what we were all summer, really. Like what we were doing all last summer. We became a completely different offense. Defensively, we had to change things. So it was a figuring out process that you hope you kind of figure things out by Christmas and go into that Christmas holiday tournament, kind of getting your legs going down the stretch of the second half of the season. But this year it just took longer, and I thought we were trending in the right direction. I'm excited with all the young guys we have, where we'll be. I can't wait for this summer. I mean, we're changing some things up a little bit this summer, trying a few things different, but I like where we're heading.
And Coach, I bet again, I've been in those situations. It's just as you talk, it all visually comes. When you got a young team trying to keep them competitive, trying to get them to understand that it's not necessarily serial. It pulls up on the scoreboard. But the end result is what we're trying to build towards. It's what we're trying to get through. And I give you guys and your staff credit and the kids when you could stay competitive, but might not be coming out on the top end of that because so many people around you, sometimes even we're always looking up and it's measured off that scoreboard, and it doesn't always have to be because there's a lot of little moments that you can win on that can become big moments when these kids are out on their own and out into their real life stuff. So I guess my question, looking at you talked how tough the conference is and how difficult it was, and it shows, I think, in how a lot of these teams did and how far they went on some things. For you personally, because I look at it as two things. I always liked it with us being in the Merrill because we're playing higher up division. So then when we get to playoffs, it's like, hey, let's go play some people with their own enrollment and populations, and this is that getting beat up a little bit helped. And now you're going to switch over to the GNC, I guess. What do you like about the Valley and things being with being a lower team in that, or a lower divisional team in that conference, and how excited are you to transition into the GNC?
Before you answer the question, though, the doorbell rang because our next guest came in. I went, answered the door, I came back in, and you were still asking the question.
Well, I don't know, I got this thing configured in my head. Yeah. Well, okay, no, it's all good. It's all good. Coach has to ask for gas reimbursement when you send him all over the city to a different studio, and he's still alive to talk about it.
All right. Yeah, point taken.
Okay, we're good.
All right. I hope
Sorry.
you.
I might have to do that.
Yeah, I don't want him to ask the question again. So.
I got it. I think what it does for us going to the GNC, next year we're still in the Valley, but going to the GNC, I think it legitimately gives us a chance to have a goal of winning the conference championship every year. If we do things right, and we should be competitive enough to be right there if things fall the right way. So I think that helps your program in the sense of excitement, but we'll still play, if they're willing to, play the Valley teams in our non-conference because it's huge. I've always said I love playing in the Valley because it does get us ready for the D2 playoffs. It's just tough when you have to do it against them twice.
Right.
If you can go through it one time and on a certain night or on a Saturday, it's a little different than Tuesday, Friday, and then later in the season it goes Tuesday, Thursday, and it's like you're you're getting ready. And this year, like I was telling Chad on Thursday, our rotation on the schedule was just brutal. It was like Marshfield, Spash, East. I mean, Everest. Like, it was just like, and there weren't any easy ones, but it was just like the top three were like bam, 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 just nail you. But, you know, even this year, going winless in the conference, the guys worked so hard to stay locked in. The games that we thought we would be competitive at and have a chance to get a couple, we didn't get them. I mean, Rapids, both times, very, very easily could have won those. I mean, there were those kind of games. The first time against West was a back and forth game for much all the way deep into the second half, and then they kind of pulled away. You know, it's just the way it is, and it does make you better if you come out of it healthy.
Right.
Like it is a grind, and if you come out healthy at the end, you feel better. And you know, I look at it too. We continue to streak this. I believe this is my 4th year now back at Merrill. 4 years hosted a playoff game. 4 years won a playoff game. You know, those are all things too to build on. And again, like you said, records. Everyone looks at, oh, you know, what were we, 8 and 18? I don't know what we were, but everyone looks at that. But I look at, is the progress going here, or did we start here and now we're just hanging on at the end of the year? I think that says a lot about the kids and their commitment to sticking with it. And I feel like we were trending in the right direction at the end of the year. A lot of guys coming back. You know, a guy that would have been a starter this year will be back next year. We'll be sneaky competitive next year, I think, and people probably won't see it coming.
And when you jump into the GNC, that's a great conference too. I mean,
I'm not slighting the GNC at all. I mean,
you're going to see some great games, and they're just in. I mean, those games will also prepare you for D2 playoffs.
Right. It's kind of funny because when I was at Pines, I was in the same boat as being in Merrill in the Valley. You know, I was the little. I mean, Tomahawk too, but we were the D3 team playing all these D2 teams, you know, and getting us ready for D3 playoffs. So I've experienced it. I get it. It'll be fun to be back in there. I like the coaches there. Not saying I don't like the coaches in the Valley, but it'll be fun to compete in both, I guess, and twice in that one and once in the Valley.
Again, we're talking to Troy Pieper, head basketball coach of the boys for the Merrill Blue Jays here on Bull Falls Radio. You mentioned during the struggles, your guys being able to stay focused, to be able to stay mentally involved and not let it just slide away. But we'll talk about specifics in terms of guys that, in terms of what they did on the court. But I want to ask you, who was maybe a guy or two on this team that were the most important in terms of keeping that mental equilibrium, to make sure that every day at practice you guys were able to accomplish what you needed to do, to make sure that you didn't let a bad loss stick with you? Were there some leaders on this team that you, as you get to the end of a season, really appreciated?
Yeah, Carter Body, just like where he has come from, because this is my first freshman to senior group. This is my first group that I had seen him as freshman, maturing or lack thereof and all that. and he's such a competitive, but he came to such a different level of a leader this year. And before the season even started, I mean, he took Tyson. My son and him took Tyson, and Tyson was with everything. Carter dates Tyson's sister, so Tyson didn't really have a choice. But
Which one, by the way, Maya?
Maddie.
Oh man, okay. Maya was very impressive when she came here, and that family must be very, very competitive when they do have them 3-on-3 games or whatever.
Yeah.
Go on.
But Carter, day in and day out, where I mean, and I think Carter would admit it too. A year ago, even, probably wouldn't have handled a couple of the stretches we had as well as he did, and he showed up and he kept the guys positive. EJ Wykes is the same kind of way, and EJ's more of a you're going to work as hard as me kind of leader. He's not as vocal, but you're going to see how hard work, what it looks like, and you're going to follow, or you're just going to kind of fall behind. So those two jump off the board. They were our captains, and they were our captains for a reason, and great leaders, great kids on and off the court. And probably I don't know where it would have went if those two aren't on the team, to be honest.
one of the biggest things I love when we get to talk to coaches is the and you just solidified that even more is the connections you make with these guys. I hope it's always appreciated, because so often I think the experience of the players to the parents sometimes, and even that can be based on, how are we at wins and losses? How are we at playing time? How is my kid feeling? What are they talking about? And it's so much so that, if you've coached long enough and done it enough and know how to do it, it's all about those connections. It's about knowing those kids, and they are your guys. They're your own kids. That's how you treat them, and I think that's such a big deal. I mean, how big, how big is it for you to create these player connections and to work with these guys and have them go out there and battle for you all the time like they did throughout the season?
We use the word family and not in a loose way. I mean, pretty much every program you come across, they're going to use family or some way or another. But I literally make it clear to them when they come in the program now, whether even if they quit after a couple of years or whatever, you started in the basketball program. If you ever need anything, your family, it's a real thing. I treat it that way. I think when you're that genuine and you're that connected with the players, you get the commitment in the summer. Because that's really where it all starts. I mean, you can't just show up in November and expect good things to happen. I mean, if you look at East, for example, and it it kills me to give too much compliments to that way, but I can. It was a very committed group in the summer, like from 1 through 10, 12, whatever it was. Even in the kids that weren't getting playing time, they were there every league night. They were there. They didn't miss a thing. They were all in, and it showed come season. So, it's a real thing, and I think it starts with the connection. If there's a disconnect or there's not good communication, you're gonna lose that commitment. And you would think the wins-loss record, you would have thought every practice would have been everybody showing up in that it's only January and the season's not but it never was. It was we laughed and joked more and had so much fun because it was kind of like we had to. It was almost kind of like we know we're better than we are playing at times, but we can't hanging our head and just pouting and moping isn't going to get us the next win. So we had fun. You wouldn't think it when you look at the record, but we did have fun. On and off the court. I mean, it's a fun group of kids. It's a senior group that I'm going to miss. Anytime you're with that group, that first group for 4 years, you've gone through, especially going through COVID. I mean, that was their first year wearing masks, and at JV2 they were playing at different times at different locations. It was just they've gone through it all, and for them to come through at the end and be the leaders and just the young men that are ready to kind of go on and do whatever they want and be successful is pretty cool to see.
And how awesome is it for you? I think it's also because I did the same thing. I went to Newman and I'm an alumni and I got to coach there. I just think I don't know, maybe I don't know it because I didn't coach somewhere else. But how cool a factor is it to be alumni? If anybody that knows your coach, you went from Pines to over to Merrill and you kind of come back home. How cool is it to be an alumni and now you're also the head basketball coach there?
It's awesome. And with it though, it comes more people. Yeah. So those people think they can just text you because they could if they want to just go hang out, they could text.
True, there is the other side.
But when more people, they feel like they have easier and more open access. Not that I'm really closed. I'm pretty much an open door. Let's have the conversation before it gets whatever. But I had the same kind of family feel at Pines. I love Pines. I was at Ryan Peterson's senior night at UWSP, and his senior year didn't go great there. But I still have all those connections there. It was great there. My 1 year at East was fabulous. Me and Coach Lacerte and that senior group, we had a blast and we had fun and it was, and I still have those connections. But yeah, at home it's just a little, everything. Not everything, but I mean you have access. You the people that are above you. You've gone to school with them. It's just a more comfort thing. You don't feel like there's anything coming from behind, that's going to stab you in the back. So you feel more comfortable. It's awesome being home.
Again, we're talking to Troy Pieper, Merrill boys basketball coach. looking at the program as a whole, you said it. It's now been 4 years, and something that we talk about often is the importance of stability within a program. And obviously, with your emotional ties and your personal ties, it I think it helps a lot in terms of in this era where it's not easy maintaining a program, let alone building a program. When you look at where the program is generally, and people see what they come out and see a varsity game and see what the records are and all that, but success of a program goes so much deeper than that. What are the areas right now that you feel like this program is really in a good space, whether it's at the youth levels or the middle school, the high school, the commitment, and maybe what are the areas that you're still trying to build? Because, again, as you said, you come in during COVID where there's a lot of reasons where kids could be falling away. We see it around the state and we see it around the country where it's not easy to put out a varsity team and a JV team and a freshman team and have the number of teams that we used to see on a regular basis in the past. I guess maybe a state of the program as you finish up your 4th year.
Where I like it is the commitment from, like, our booster club is rock solid. Like there's no, it's not asking. It's whatever you need. Let's if it's going to help the program, let's go. Like that part, that foundation's great. The youth program, the commitment from my travel coaches is off the charts. Like, they're always asking, can we just come in on Sunday and do skills? Like, travel season's over. They're like, our 8th grade, we host our 8th grade, the GMBL 8th grade tournament, not this weekend, next weekend. But everybody else is pretty much done. Our 7th grade also was playing in a state tournament down in Madison that same weekend. But everyone else is done, and coaches are asking, my guys want to get in the gym. Can we? I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll open the gym when you need it. But it's not just travel coaches that are parents. I think that's a big deal. When you can get guys that just love the game of basketball, that want to help in any way, whether it's at the travel level or coaching middle school ball or whatever it is, I think it helps so much. Michael Casper played at UW Eau Claire. Mm-hmm. He has no more kids in the program, and he's bringing through right now my 5th grade group, and he's been with them from the start. Mm-hmm. And like, he doesn't have to do that, but he just loves it, and he's about Merrill and making the program great. Those things are off the charts. Like, the commitment there is, I couldn't ask for more. Things that I would want to see improved. I don't even know if it's a basketball thing. I think it's a, and this is probably not just Merrill, but in a whole, there needs to be more multi-sport athletes. 2 or 3 sports. I get 3 sports is a lot nowadays with this day and age with kids wanting to work at some time or whatever. But it goes so far to develop your program. Right. Even if they're not the superstar basketball player, but an offensive lineman can get a lot better playing basketball. Their feet can get a lot better. The same thing translates to a guard can be a much better anticipation on a pass in playing defensive back in football. Like, you have to, I think it goes a long ways. You talk to college coaches, they look at that. And I think the more multi-sport athletes you find, 2 and 3 sport athletes, I think the better your program's going to be. I think a big thing for us basketball-wise, the academic all-state came out. We had 8 kids, and every one of those 8 kids were multi-sport athletes. And I think 3 or 4 of them were 3-sport athletes. That's the stuff that when our banquet comes, I'll be talking about. It's not always the wins and losses. We had a cancer night. A member of the community basketball family who's probably going to give cancer the biggest fight that cancer's ever faced. He's just that stubborn, and that's the way he is. We raised over $5,000 in one night. Like, those are the things that show that the support of the community's there and the state of the program's in a good spot, and it's just a matter of kind of putting it all together so that you see the wins too.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned multi-sport athletes, you being a multi-sport coach, you coach football, correct? Mm-hmm. Coach baseball, and you're the head coach on boys basketball. How does being a multi-sport coach help you in your basketball head coaching?
It helps. This year was the first time I did football, and I was worried about it because I get pretty locked in once school starts on basketball. And I think what it did was actually help me not overthink basketball. Like I was focused. I helped Coach Wad and the defense the best I could. But again, making those connections. Perfect example, Brody Lang didn't play basketball the last 2 years. He played as a freshman, but he focused on football the last 2 years. I was around him every day, bugging him and like, dude, you can still do this. You know, it's okay, even though you haven't. He's a senior now. And he comes out and he plays 36 minutes, takes 3 charges, hits 3 threes against East. Like, those are the kind of things that I think help when you coach multiple sports. And baseball I coached since I came back. It's easier in spring. I was really worried about coaching in the fall, but it was fine. Coach Garrett at East coaches football too. I think it just helps with the connections and them not seeing you or thinking of you from what one player might have said. He's this way, and like they get to actually see how I am, and they might give basketball a try. If not, it's just the more people that I make a connection with, whether they're going to play or not, might help our student section too. So I mean, all that stuff goes a long ways, and it's fun. It keeps me busy, and it's fun.
And you mentioned, at our banquet, and I always remember during the spring, you go through the grind, and you're loving every minute of it, but it takes a physical and mental toll on you because there's just a lot of work involved, and you're so if it means something to you, you're just high emotions and involved in that, and you care about it so much that I always found it hard, like, to diffuse and rest at the end. And then, you got to turn around and you start almost planning for the next season, because I know sometimes people measure this back. Well, it's that 4-month chunk. Well, when you're the head coach, there's weight room expectations. There's
our summer schedule's already.
Yeah, that's what
done.
I'm saying. So have you had any time to rest, or do you hit it pretty hard, or do you try to get to the award ceremony and then you got your ducks in a row because you've done this for 4 years?
I always wait for because our spring break is next week for Merrill. So my spring break starts tomorrow as I head to Madison. But I always plan the spring break or our banquet after spring break. So that first weekend in April is usually when we have it. I don't know. I mean, do I rest? And not really. I mean, the way I rested and made my mind right this year, which I think this year could have really been taxing and tolling on me, probably physically and mentally. I coached my 6th grade daughter's travel team, which you would think that would not be a mentally but it was, because it was a different perspective of it, and it wasn't in it the grind. It was just like half of them are there to have fun, and it's just to be with their friends, and they might get a sleepover at the end. So
you spend more time singing Taylor Swift songs and telling them to stop doing backflips in the back of the line, and then you turn around and go to your varsity stuff and you're yelling at the 6'5" kid, and he's getting scared of you, right? Go ahead though.
So I think that helped me a lot this year, actually, and in a weird way, it just happened. Downtown Alley Burroughs does our.
That's going to be my last question to you.
Does our play-by-play?
Yeah, that you have now become one of us.
Yes,
you've come to the dark side.
And when we had off nights and the girls were playing, I would do the color or sit there with them, and just a blast. Like, I'm like, doing radio play-by-play and stuff is the greatest, because you can be dead wrong and nobody knows it. They don't know if the names are wrong. I mean,
I always say that nothing happens until you tell them it happens.
Right. But it was so it was just a different perspective, and you get to see how the coaches are doing it, and it really relaxed me. And then I have, which I hope all coaches have, is kind of their go-to trust, like the coaches that they trust inside the conference or whatever. And Coach Lemons at West was huge for me this year. Like, he knew at times I was just down, and he would just reach out. Kip Downing, he used to coach at West, still a good friend of mine. Like, those kind of guys, when they can sense it and they reach out, it goes a long ways. It helps. And when you have those kind of coach friends, Witter checked in a couple times, and Coach Brown at Medford's another good one. It's good to bounce stuff off of them, because they've all gone through it. Everyone's gone through rough years where you have a 6-7 game losing streak. Like, nobody wants it. Nobody knows how to deal with it. But when you can relate, and somebody relates, like, hey, I was just there a couple years ago. You just gotta keep coaching, and it just helps. It's not a huge pick me up, but it just makes you feel like, yeah, everyone has had this kind of stretch. And I'm thankful to have those kind of people to just text and reach out to.
Fantastic. And now you get a little fun this weekend. Hopefully see a wonderful boys basketball tournament.
You want to know my predictions?
Absolutely.
That's what I was just going to ask. You're going down there. What are you looking forward to see?
I
or
did
what do you
this
got?
just for you guys.
Okay.
And some of these teams I haven't
come
seen
on
play.
Come on by at halftime tomorrow night and you can put them on my airwaves.
These are your picks to win it all at each
This
level?
is win it all.
Okay,
all right.
Go ahead.
All right, D1. I got Arrowhead over Marquette in a game that I think is going to be way closer. Marquette can score. They have one kid that set the school record, broke.
It starts with an M, doesn't it?
Yeah, McGuire. McGuire's record and somebody else's
That's
record.
a good name for anybody going to Marquette. I'll tell you that much.
But they'll give Arrowhead all they can handle, but I think Arrowhead wins. D2. Wisconsin Lutheran's gonna get their first loss. Pewaukee's gonna get them. It's gonna be a good game. That whole D2 thing, D1 and D2, I think you could probably pick almost any one of the 8 teams.
That's the thing. There's going to be somebody that's like a 4 or a 3 that wins. It's no upsets.
I mean, you look at Neenah; they were 6 seed in that sectional, and they beat Point and Marshfield.
Yeah.
They won 13 games in a row coming into the tournament. Like that's not a 6. That's not.
No.
It's not.
They're not going to be a slouch either.
Yeah. D3, I have St. Thomas More. That's the one I don't think that's going to be. That's my most chalk one. I think that one's going to go. I think they're going to have their way. D4. I mean, come on, Coach Jacobson. I love the guy. He's one of my guys. Marathon's going to win that, and then I know nothing about D5, but you got to go with the most local at team. So I'm going Columbus Catholic over Elma Bancroft. Marathon beating Mineral Point.
I like it. It's
Salon
all
Springs.
sound.
Salon Springs is going to beat.
So you guys don't
Columbus.
You don't have to watch. All you got to do is
No.
listen. All you got to do is listen tomorrow night at 6:20 Marathon plays.
Yep.
Then and you
Prime
just
time. I like this. I like it.
visit the.
There's nothing like a night game at the Kohl Center.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
It's going to be very cool. Coach, really appreciate you coming on by.
Thanks for having me.
It's always fun
Nice
to talk to you.
digs.
Yeah. Next year we'll make sure that you come in. You'll know where we are this time.
Will this be parking over here at some point?
I don't know at this point. Hopefully, because
that was the other thing.
I
I pulled
know.
out here. I'm like, oh my goodness.
every week that's our biggest issue. And my parking's a couple of blocks down, so it's like,
I'm in a 15-minute thing, but I think it ended at 5.
There
so
you
I think I'm okay. We'll find out.
Send the ticket.
We'll find
You get a
out.
ticket, send it to Chad.
What if it's towed?
geez.
He'll give you a ride home at
We're
8 o'clock.
digging here. We're digging. Troy Pieper, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to come back and have our student athlete guest for this week, Thomas Passineau, the outstanding junior from DC Everest and their hockey team. That's coming up here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
So, how are the kids?
Well, Emily made the honor roll.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, we're really proud of her. Tyler, on the other hand, though,
What's going on?
he's been moody lately, just feeling down and not like himself.
Oh, we've been there. Nick was struggling last spring. He was so anxious and stressed.
Really? What helped?
Well, he joined the soccer team, and ever since, he's been a lot happier. He has more energy, he's less stressed, and he's definitely in a better mood at home. It's made a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting out of the house, he's getting some exercise, and he's off his phone for once. It's been good for his mental health.
Sounds like it's been good for your mental health, too.
Participating in Wisconsin high school sports improves students' physical and mental health. Encourage your son or daughter to get involved. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
If you're looking for your next ride, check out Mankey GMC in Schofield. Formerly Fred Miller Automotive, Mankey GMC serves Schofield, Wausau, Marshfield, and Stevens Point with a huge selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Explore a range of top-notch SUVs like Acadia, Terrain, and Yukon, or choose from the rugged Sierra truck lineup, or even a certified pre-owned vehicle. No matter your dream vehicle awaits at Mankey GMC, 448 Grand Avenue in Schofield, and online at MankeyAuto.com. Mankey GMC in Schofield, where your journey begins.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services, whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing. They print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small, so give Sun Printing a call. at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
What's your idea of winter fun? If it's hitting the trails after a fresh snowfall and you're thinking new snowmobile, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. If you're thinking new four-wheel drive vehicle to get you to the downhill slopes or the cross-country trails, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. Quick, easy loan applications, friendly lenders, and great rates make CCU the lending leader in financing fun. If your idea of winter fun isn't in the snow, maybe hitting the highway in a new motorhome is the way to go. Just give CCU a call. Financing for motorhomes and winter getaways. When you think fun, think Clover Belt Credit Union. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Call CCU for your great rate financing. Dial 715-842-5693 or apply online or from your smartphone. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes. And there's something really odd about bringing in a hockey player on a night where we're in the 60s. You know, it's very odd, but we're very happy to welcome from DC Everest Senior High School, outstanding junior, second team All-Wisconsin Valley Conference, Thomas Passineau. And Thomas, thank you for popping on over.
Yeah, of course. It's great to
be
here.
A little bit closer, Thomas.
It's great to be here, guys.
We want to make sure everybody hears you out there. But I guess, number one, I say you're a junior. Normally that means not a lot of experience. You've had a lot of experience already. You played as a freshman. In fact, you scored double-digit goals as a freshman. First of all, the opportunities. I imagine that if I broadcast West games, and it feels like you've been around forever. I've seen you a number of times, twice a year during the Wisconsin Valley Conference campaign. I guess having the opportunity as a very young player, as a freshman, how did you look at it? Because that's jumping into a pretty big pool, playing at basically a Division I level school as a freshman.
Right. Obviously, I was a big kid as a freshman, so I mean, I had a lot of great seniors that year, and I looked up to them a lot. And I mean, being as big as I was, it definitely helped, and I definitely got experience a lot from camps during the summer and all that extra hockey, especially last summer. But obviously, being able to go on as a freshman was great, and I mean, I had a lot of great teammates that helped me obviously reach that point goal. But yeah, I mean, it was really fun, and I was really happy with being able to play as a freshman.
And it's really interesting. You mentioned the fact that as a freshman, you had some more experienced teammates, and I recall that as well. And then as a sophomore, a lot of those guys graduated, and it was a much younger team. In fact, the last 2 years, it's been a much younger team. As a sophomore, the numbers actually went down a little bit.
Right.
And then this year, boy, you popped up really nicely, and as I said, all second team, all conference. The transition to becoming, as a sophomore, somebody that I think was looked at by your opponents as one of the top threats, and then also being counted on to be a guy that replaced a lot of production from that freshman year. I imagine that was a rather steep curve that sophomore year, wasn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, last year, our seniors, the class was smaller. And a lot of the sophomores this year were not as developed. They're a little more immature, and they still are a little bit. But, yeah, they really took a big step as well. And obviously having that chemistry with them, doing a lot more off ice, and really building the friendships and the bonds between each other, it really helped us come together as a team more. Obviously the record wasn't showing as much, but I really think that off and on the ice, we definitely came together as a team much more.
And this year, he had a really good season, and also the team. And we had Coach Van Slyke on about a month ago. It was in the midst of, I think we call the Renaissance, because you had I think it was December was a rough month. I mean,
right,
it had a real tough month. where things could go off the rails. But then in January, things started to turn around, played really good hockey coming down the stretch. And even the losses, I saw your game against West where you took them to overtime. I think the only other loss late in the regular season was to Stevens Point, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And then you were able to go on the road and win in the playoffs. What was the key for this group? Because, again, it was a rough December, but, boy, you guys really played some good hockey coming down the stretch. What was the key to the turnaround for you and your teammates?
I mean, I don't know if it was the Christmas gifts with new sticks and stuff or what, or maybe New Year's resolutions, but I don't know. The guys, especially the sophomore class, because that's most of our team, they really turned it around. I mean, you could tell they really wanted it toward the end of the season, starting in January. Coach mentioned it a lot. I don't know what flipped the switch, but we really wanted it more after last year. So,
and now you obviously jumping from 8th grade to freshman, so you learn a ton about yourself, and it's just it's a huge jump. And I give a lot of props when you can go from basically middle school hockey or whatever sport it is to playing with the varsity guys and making a commitment, making a dent there, because that's not easy to do, because bigger, stronger, faster is a big deal when you get out on that ice. For you, from freshman to sophomore, junior, now leading into your senior year, because obviously season's done with, what is the next step you think for yourself in developing your game? Because obviously I think you've had a ton of ice time and you've seen your game develop, whether it's been forced to adjust going in freshman year. What do I have to step up with graduation in sophomore year? Now, good junior season. What do you want to develop in your game, do you think, for the next season? Or how have you analyzed it? What do you need to do for next year?
So last year I did a lot of summer teams, and I think that helped a lot with my development this past my junior year. But I really think I need to work on my skating a bit. I don't look the fastest out there, and I don't feel the fastest always. But I think doing a lot more, in the weight room, and obviously cutting out certain foods. I gotta slim down a little bit. But I think the off-ice part is the most important right now. And I just got to get better, stronger with my legs, and cut down a little bit. The guys, a lot of the sophomore guys, they really want to get in better shape too. I see them working. They're always putting in work, and they just want to get better. So I love that.
Is that going to be – it sounds like you've already done or are a lot in a leadership role. Is that going to even become more important this off season, leading into the season, that you're going to have to continue that and then some?
Yeah, off season, yeah. I mean, in the weight room, I try to be as verbally a leader as I can. I definitely need to step it up, though. I mean, a lot of the guys, they're in their own head sometimes, and sometimes they just do what they want. But I mean, I should definitely step it up as a leader and a captain going into my senior year.
Again, we're talking to Thomas Passineau from DC Everest, junior evergreen, hockey standout here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. There has to be a lot of excitement. I know it's still. I just we just finished up the hockey season. I was saying to somebody, boy, it's sad that it will be Thanksgiving weekend for a lot of folks before the next game for high school games. But there has to be a lot of excitement because you have so much production back. You got yourself and a number of your teammates. You got a really good young goaltender. You have the success that you were able to start building on late in the season. When you have end of the year meetings with Coach Van Slyke and you talk to the other guys, is there that sense that there is a potential? Because the Wisconsin Valley Conference in recent years has been kind of a couple of tiers. You got Stevens Point has been the best team the last couple of years, and then you got Wausau West, who, despite Rapids and Everest coming after them, still find ways to win always in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Do you feel like this group has the potential of trying to break up that party next year?
Yes, I actually really do. I think a lot of other teams like Rapids, maybe West, and Spash a little bit, they're going to lose some key guys next year. And we had such a small senior class that we have so many sophomores that I think if they really build, they mature, and they get better as players and people, I think we can really turn it around. And, I mean, we were a shot away from beating West this year in overtime. But, yeah, I really think that if these current sophomores decide to step it up, that we can really make a change.
Let me ask this, because you've mentioned the sophomores a number of times, and they'll be juniors next year. What are the challenges when there are so many young players that are counted on for production, because you said it. I mean, if you look at DC Everest and this year, I mean, boy, at the end, I remember I was doing another playoff game when you went to Chi High, and obviously that was a rough way to end. But I was looking at the Everest Instagram, and there were big holes in the line charts because you guys were shorthanded. It was really a situation where you were a bit shorthanded for much of the season, and then counting on young players. What kind of challenges were there when you're counting on young guys who are still, I think, finding their way? Because, again, it's not easy, especially in a league like the Wisconsin Valley Conference and the schedule that you play, to kind of learn and also produce at the same time.
I think there's a lot of maturity to do with these sophomores. I mean, locker room shenanigans and stuff like that. I really think they can step it up. Obviously Griffin is a great player. He's a good guy too. But yeah, with him and his buddies, I mean, sometimes the shenanigans get a little crazy, but yeah.
And I'm always curious, just because I know for hockey around the valley, your home ice is one of the bigger ice rinks, correct?
Yes.
It's a full size or Olympic size.
Olympic,
Just so you might have to help me with the terminology.
The ice sheet is Olympic size.
Okay.
So that means there's a lot of room out there, wider to the boards, and it really is a different kind of game.
And that's what I meant. So, do you like that style, or is it hard to adjust if you say play over at Marathon Park or the different ice arenas that you go to throughout your conference schedule, or even your non-conference schedule? Do you find it tough switching the ice rink sizes, or are you happy and content because you guys got the full one to practice on and be part of?
I think it's definitely nice having it to practice on, and obviously to play on at home. We're used to it. But I think a lot of these fast teams like Spash and usually West and Rapids, they can really use it to their advantage sometimes, just because, I mean, they usually are on a smaller sheet and they know how to work it better, work the puck better in a smaller area. So I think them having that slight advantage as to having more ice than they're used to, it definitely helps them. But I prefer the bigger ice. I like it.
And for your again, leading junior to senior year here, what's the off season look? I mean, are you a multi-sport athlete? Do you go into another sport, or do you have time to work on your hockey game? Are you playing? I mean, obviously the outside weather's dictating that people should be going swimming. But what do you do for your off season in the spring, whether it's another sport or whether it's more hockey training?
Right. Yeah. So last year I did 3 spring, summer, fall teams. So that definitely helped with my game, but this year, I actually decided I'm joining golf team. Okay. There's a lot of juniors actually joining the golf team. So, but I do enjoy the sport. I'm just trying to get out on the course as much as possible right now, just because I enjoy it. And then actually coming up next month, I have a small hockey tournament on a Chippewa Steel team. It's, that's going to be fun. I did that last year in the summer, I believe. And then still to be determined in the summer and fall for hockey stuff, but I would definitely love to do Wisconsin Elite Hockey League again. I had a lot of fun with some West and Rapids kids and Spash kids on that team, so yeah, I'm looking forward to more hockey this summer.
Well, on that same lines, hockey is so different than the other sports where, say, if you're a football standout, you get to the end of your junior year, get into your senior year, you're talking about, getting interest maybe from Division III teams, or if you're really, really good, Division I squads, and you go right from high school into college. Hockey is different with junior hockey and the route that gets you from one step to another. I guess, number one, are you hoping to continue your hockey career after you complete high school? And number two, do you have an idea what that route might be?
Yeah, I'd love to do some hockey after high school. The team that I'm on, they do have some they have a null team. I don't know exactly how I can get brought up, if they just have to pick me out.
And that's North American League, is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do some hockey after high school, whether it's juniors or straight to college or whatever. But I honestly do not know what I want to do after high school yet.
It's always a little more difficult when we talk to a junior as opposed to a senior, because that year is a huge year in terms of making decisions. So there's no. That's not a surprising answer at all. Another quick point I wanted to make about your team this year is that it was very close to being right up there in the valley, because you had, I think, 2 overtime losses against Rapids.
Right. Yep.
And you had the overtime loss against Wausau West as well. Yeah. Those thin margins. When you look at those thin margins, as a team, what do you have to do differently next year to maybe turn a 1-goal loss into a 1-goal win?
I think it definitely starts in practice. We do a lot of like power play, penalty kill stuff. That definitely helps with the special teams. But I also think we did do a little bit of 3-on-3 and some, small area games, stuff like that for overtimes and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely doing more of that stuff, making the guys move the puck better and make quicker decisions will definitely help with our gameplay, especially in overtimes. But yeah, I mean, we just need to capitalize on our opportunities as much as we can, and I think we can definitely be up there.
That said, the win in Eau Claire in the playoffs, when you went to North End, came from behind twice and then ultimately won it late in the third period. That's the kind of game that I imagine that for especially a young team is important to remember how you did that going into next season, because again, turning tight losses into tight wins and then having the last tight game you played be a W had to be something that made for an exciting locker room and a very exciting drive home, I imagine.
Yes, it was. Yeah, those guys, they really grind. Obviously, I believe we had 2 sophomores score in that game. So, I mean, when they step up, it's just beautiful. And we also had senior captain Charlie, who is usually a third liner. He was out on the ice and he got that tying goal, which was really awesome for the team.
And if that's not your favorite moment, that's what I was going to ask. You have another favorite moment from this season if that game's not it?
Oh,
24 goals in 24 games. So you have a lot of choices here.
Right.
Do you have you could say you don't have one, but if you have a favorite moment, go for it.
I did enjoy the Sun Prairie game a lot. We won that one in, I believe, double overtime, and I happened to have the hat trick and the game-winning goal. So that was a really special one for me.
And getting a hat trick, but sometimes it could be in an 8-2 game. Having it be where every single one is vital. That makes it even better, I imagine.
It does, yeah. It makes you really feel good about yourself.
Again, let's step away from hockey for a few moments. Obviously, you go to DC Everest. Do you have a favorite class?
I wouldn't say favorite, but I enjoy chemistry a bit. I mean, I have a lot of good teachers and classmates, but I think chemistry, I enjoy my teacher, and I enjoy the subject usually, so yeah.
So you said you're kind of, you're only a junior, so you got plenty of time to decide stuff. Would that enjoyment of those science classes lead into something science-based that you'd want to do in the future, or it's just that they're good classes and you have no idea yet?
Well, I want to say it's undecided, just because, I mean, I enjoy the labs and stuff, but I don't know if I'm exactly great in that field. But I actually started a summer job last year with my buddy Shaden, also on the hockey team. We started a window cleaning business. So straight from scratch, just knocking doors. And that's a possibility after high school. I don't exactly know how far I'll go with it, but yeah.
Gotcha.
I think our windows.
Good. I was just going to say, when you look here, you should tell Chad these things are dirty.
Yeah, there you go. That's something we've been. Person down the hall's been yelling at me. Gotta get somebody here to clean some windows.
But there you go.
Sure.
When you're stepping away from sports, I mean, obviously it keeps you very busy. You're. But what else do you like to do, maybe to get away from sports for a few moments? I know that with the high school kids, you can't get enough of it. But what do you try to do to get away from it all once in a while?
I mean, I'm obviously a two-sport athlete right now, but I mean, I just love sports. I mean, it's hard to get away from it sometimes, just because whether if it's a video game or, I mean, going to the YMCA or whatever, I'm always involved in it. There's really not much I do that's not involving a sport.
Do you have a favorite rival? Maybe the games that you circled on the schedule every year.
I mean, West is a great one. I know a lot of the guys, so it's definitely fun to compete against them, even if I played with them. Whether I like them or not. But yeah, I think West. And
I guess I was going to go with, again, I know you're only a junior. But you've had a lot of time, so I think you can evaluate this question. What means the most to you about getting to play high school sports? Because I know when I used to talk to the guys I coach, and even now with my son and his middle school teams, it's always about that we have to understand that this is special, that we just get to do this. We get to participate this. We're with our friends. We get to be part of a team and enjoy these moments. And that's just a big deal to be able to get to do that, because we forget those little things. When it's done for you, which is still plenty of time away yet, what are you going to miss the most about? What means the most to you about this experience, about getting to play high school hockey?
A lot of it's just the connection with the guys. Whether it's in the locker room and messing around and kicking a soccer ball around or whatever, or even the bus ride home from good games and bad games. I mean, it's usually fun. So yeah, I'm just gonna miss the guys.
There was one game, and I was there actually. It was a Saturday because I was going to broadcast the Storm game after your game. I can't remember who you played. It was in the later part of the season, but I was just up watching the game, and you had one opportunity where you got the puck and you basically came in. But there's a defender, but you were able to get the shot off. In fact, I got a picture of it. I was up there taking a picture. I don't know if you saw it. I'll show it to you maybe, but you ripped it and you ripped it home. And you score, and as I said, you scored 24 goals this season. And in hockey, whether it's the NHL or whatever level, scoring goals is not easy. I mean, there are players at the top level and all the way down to the mite level that can do a lot of things well, but then can't finish. Is there a key for you that's allowed you to be a good goal scorer? And I think that, again, that's probably maybe a difficult question, but watching hockey for a lot of years, there are some that just have the knack of finding the back of the net. What do you think is your key to being a good goal scorer?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. Obviously, when you have the puck, you cannot be scared with it. So whether it's going through defenders or just skating right around them, I always try to find the net when I shoot or score. This year, my shooting percentage wasn't as great as previous years, but I love to find the back of the net. And coaches expressed this a lot this year, actually. TJ, one of my assistant coaches, he's our offensive coach usually. He stressed a lot that shooting to score is very important in the game of hockey. So I don't know if you know Cole Caulfield, Canadians down in Point. He always says he's shooting to score, whether if it's in practice, at home, on the shooting pad, or in games. He's always shooting to score, and I feel like I try as much to do that as possible, and confidence definitely helps with that.
One of my favorite memories is Cole Caulfield, because the Spash played West in the sectional final, I think 7 years ago, and he grabbed the puck, and he came into the offensive zone right at the end of the game. It was 2-2, and he fired right before the buzzer, and he banged it off the pipe. He did everything. He beat the goaltender cleanly, but it flushed off the pipe.
Right.
And then West won, of course. But it showed again his skill, the way he shot that puck against the clock. It would have been a walk-off sectional winning goal, and he banged off the pipe. It was just, and you could see him on the ice, and I think you kind of hit it on the head, that shoot to score mentality, and I think you're developing it exceptionally very very well. And I guess, do you have anything else?
Well, I was just curious. You talked about the confidence and scoring and the NHL players. Do you have an NHL player that you kind of idolize, look up to, and or maybe a favorite team you follow?
Yeah. My dad actually grew up a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, so
it's inherent. You have to.
Yep. So I follow in his footsteps.
It's a little rough right now, though.
Yeah. They're struggling right now.
Do you have a favorite player off that team or another team?
Yeah, Crosby.
Oh,
Sidney Crosby.
That's what I figured.
Right. Yep.
And I guess finally, we usually ask this to our seniors, but we're going to throw it out there right now. And hopefully we'll get you back next year in your senior year, and you can answer it all over again. But based on your experience, the 3 years of varsity hockey, and you obviously you've had some young players, young teammates going around, but say next year, you're starting your senior year, and you've got a freshman joining the squad. What piece of advice will you give that freshman that you've learned over these last 3 years in order for them to get the most out of their hockey experience?
A lot of it has to do with confidence, like I mentioned before. a lot of these smaller kids, especially we have some smaller freshmen and some sophomores, a lot of them getting hurt and stuff.
Right.
They just can't be afraid with the puck, because that's the biggest thing, jumping from a Bantam to a high school player, whether if it's on JV or varsity. Just being able to take a hit, just like not even allowing people to scare you when they're even coming at you, whether it's a stick or a body. Just, I don't know, being able to shy off those little fears inside, I guess.
Very good. Wrapped up. Okay, very good. Thomas Passineau again. Congrats on a really good season. Congrats on being second team All Wisconsin Valley Conference this season. Enjoy the links. Enjoy the golf, because that's a lot of fun. I love doing it myself. So, and it's wonderful to be. And I say this all the time, because the winter sports season is a long season. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful to get out in the spring and feel the sunshine.
Yes, it is.
So enjoy that. And again, thanks for coming on over.
Thank you, Chad.
Thomas Passineau for the DC Everest Evergreens. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about last week's girls' state basketball tournament and look ahead to the boys this coming weekend as well, as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230.
5 exciting championship games highlighted the girls' basketball state tournament over the weekend. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by NFHSNetwork.com. More high school sports news after this.
Do you ever wish you could be in 2 places at once? With homework, carpool, practice, and everything else, sometimes you just can't make it to every game. But the NFHS Network's streaming platform makes that a little easier. For just $11.99 a month, you can watch unlimited high school sports live and on demand, at home or on the go. You can watch online or on one of our mobile or connected TV apps. Visit NFHSNetwork.com and subscribe today to never miss another game.
What a weekend it was for girls basketball at the Resch Center in Green Bay, which saw a 10,000-person boost in attendance this season. The fans got their money's worth, including some incredible games on Championship Saturday. In Division I, Arrowhead outlasted Neenah 69-59, as sophomore Natalie Cuso was tremendous with 26 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. It helped overcome a big performance by Neenah's Allie Zabel, who had 35 points in the title game after a 40-piece in the semifinals. The UConn recruit was named the WBCA Ms. Basketball earlier in the week. For the 3rd straight year, Notre Dame and Pewaukee met in the Division II championship game, but Pewaukee got the upper hand this time in a 60-52 victory, ending Notre Dame's run of 3 straight championships. Edgewood edged out Xavier to claim the Division III title 55-52. Laconia was a repeat winner in Division IV, taking down Cuba City 47-43. The Division V title game was a thriller, going to overtime, as Albany Monticello rallied from a 5-point deficit with 30 seconds left in regulation to force the extra period. There, the Space Stallions would claim the championship in the co-op's first season of existence, as the 4th seed won 57-54. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
Take your career to the next level with Graphic Packaging International. Work with a team to make Hot Pocket sleeves and the food trays you find at our local fair. Join the GPI team and experience the benefits of one of the highest paying manufacturers in the area, starting at almost $22.55 per hour. Enjoy job security, a clean facility, and an excellent benefits package, including a week of vacation after 4 months and 2 weeks after a year. Apply today at graphicpkg.com and elevate your career with Graphic Packaging.
Winter sports are here. Align your young athletes and yourself with health by scheduling an appointment with Dr. Sarah at Shine Chiropractic in Rib Mountain. Stay in the game with our comprehensive 3-point neurological exam, safe for the entire family. Don't let the daily grind keep you and your student athletes on the sidelines this year. Call Dr. Sarah at 715-298-5104. That's 715-298-5104 in Rib Mountain today.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. boy, I mean, those we had two really good ones tonight. Troy Pieper, and glad we could get Coach Pieper back in. And again, as I said at the start, sometimes that was my fault. We should have had him in much earlier because, again, we often bring in either coaches or players coming off some big win. But you know it as well as anybody. High school sports and the whole experience, especially of a winter sports season that is a long season, and that's not counting all the off-season stuff. But, I mean, just the season itself is a long grind. And wins and losses does not – it's wonderful to win, but it does not ultimately lead to either being a great season or a not-so-great season in terms of the fulfillment that everybody gets, correct?
Right. I think it doesn't ultimately define everything. I mean, getting back to for the first point, it is mentally and physically exhausting when that you are just drained when that final buzzer goes off. I mean, you just become a pile of plasma laying on the ground. I mean, if you've put everything into it you possibly can. At the same time, there are handfuls of programs where that's all they do is win. But I think the vast majority, there's some ups and downs. And you got to keep in mind that you're always creating and helping maintain that experience for that group that you have at that moment. And there's a ton of factors that judge into how that goes, highs and lows. But I think it's something to be said when you can keep groups competitive, when maybe you just, you don't have the heavy roster, when the chips aren't falling the way they are, and sometimes you got to fight through some things. And I think this was cool, and I like this. I liked talking after the fact of the season. I think it was cool that they got to share their analysis of it, and that they were both guests, Coach Pieper and Thomas. They were both open about everything, and I think that's neat because it presents their analysis and still paints a great portrait of the experiences they had and the programs that they're part of. And I thought it was cool bringing it in after the fact. I kind of liked it. I thought it gave us a different perspective of living in the now.
Yes, you're exactly right. So maybe we'll have to do it again next week.
Yeah, you might.
I definitely have to do it again next week because the season will be over for everybody in winter. But and again, Thomas Passineau, you can tell. Usually, a junior has not had the experience that he has had. You can tell he's had the experience. He's seen it. Yep. He's lived it on the ice. I think he's lived it in the locker room, and I think DC Everest is in a pretty good position having him as one of their captains next year.
Yeah, he sounds like he knows what's going on and can analyze it, which I always think is a big deal to be able to communicate what you're seeing and doing.
Let's talk about the girls' state tournament last weekend because, again, we had none of our local teams were involved, but it was I thought, a really good tournament. I was a little nervous after the first game. It was a blowout, the first game of the tournament. But after that, there were a lot of really good games, and all 5 of the championship games were very, very competitive.
I thought Saturday was awesome. Just the back and forth, the lead changes. Even if a team got out and controlled the game, it was still a good game to watch. But Championship Saturday was excellent this year, I thought.
Yeah, Arrowhead won Division I, beating Neenah by a score of 69-59. It was great to see again Allie Zabel. She had 40 in the semis, 35 in the finals. And again, I had a chance to see her as a sophomore when Wausau West played a playoff game over there. It was amazing because this sophomore that night broke a Neenah scoring record that had been held since the late 1970s. I mean, that showed how prolific she was as a freshman and as a sophomore. Saw her again during the regular season as a junior and a senior. And just an amazing player. She's going to be fun to watch at UConn. And again, I was very happy that finally Neenah, with her in the lineup, was able to get to the state tournament. But Arrowhead did a great job in winning that game after breaking a tie about midway through the second half.
And for Allie Zabel, I'm going to botch the name, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. That girl that went to Notre Dame, and then she played in the WNBA.
Oh, yeah.
She played at the long Catholic school name, whatever, Divine Savior. Anyways, she is the all-time state leader for, I think, points scored in the tourney at like 82 or something like that. And Allie Zabel at 75 for a close second. So a career ended well, got down there. It took a tough loss to an Arrowhead team that had a sophomore that I think she had 20 in the second half and finished with 26 for the game. I mean, they shot 50%. Yeah, they shot like I thought the stats line said 50% from the floor. I mean, you're going to win a lot of games shooting 50%, especially down on new hoops at state.
Exactly. Division II saw Pewaukee finally get past Notre Dame Academy. NDA had beat Pewaukee the last 2 years, but Pewaukee won that one 60-52. Jumped out to a quick lead. Notre Dame came back, made it tight. But interesting, it shows again that I would like to see. I hope we don't see a fourth year in a row the same teams in the championship. But at the same time, it was still. At the same time, I am somebody that always says I want to see the best teams as well.
Right, and that you did. And for Pewaukee, we've talked about Notre Dame a little bit. They had two Miss Basketball finalists.
Talk about probably took votes away from each other.
Yeah, which is usually unheard of. They also had all 5 starters averaged 12 or 13 points or more. So it's not like they're coming in as just a solid team. They cut the lead. Pewaukee got up, I think, one time, 42-26.
Yeah, it looked like it was over there.
Yeah, and then they cut the lead back to 1 with about 2 minutes left, I think, or 2:30 or something like that. And for Pewaukee, to finally, they've been 83, I think, and 7 in the last 3 years.
And frankly, you mentioned how they had the big lead and then Notre Dame came back. Just the fact that Notre Dame had beat them the last 2 years, I thought they're gonna wilt. Notre Dame's gonna win it again. But they were able to hold off and play well down the stretch, and that was, I thought, impressive.
And Pewaukee held some of their tough scores, and Chad, one of the leading scorers, was only 13 points, and she averages well over that. And for Pewaukee, you had the Jankowski girl got 20, and one of the Terrain sisters, I think the one that scores more points, had 18. So, I mean, just good games overall for Pewaukee to get that first one, I think is a big deal. And again, an 83-7 mark over the last 3 years for Pewaukee is pretty impressive.
D3, it looked like Xavier is going to win the game until late, and then Edgewood just late in the game, and Xavier just could not find the basket late in the game, and Edgewood came from behind to beat Xavier 55-52. Of course, Xavier is the team that knocked off Wittenberg-Burnhamwood in the sectional final, but again, it was a game that it just felt like for most of it, Xavier is going to win that basketball game, but if you can't finish, you aren't going to win.
Well, even some of the, when we're talking off air with Coach Pieper about some of the Valley games we watched, it was you just lost control a little bit, and then when that shot doesn't fall, everybody gets a little more tense. Things build. The other team feels the momentum swing, and they jump in there and they take one, and that's what Edgewood was able to do within that last 5 minutes, make that comeback and take the lead and hold it to have a good successful season. And again, my note's correct. They were led by a freshman. Yeah, I mean, so you're going to see more of that girl. She had 8, and some of these.
And this is so cool. Yeah. I mean, you watch, especially when there's a freshman girl out there. Yeah. They look so they are so young. I mean, and yet there you get shooting those free throws is pure and just looking so cool in these pressure situations is so very impressive.
Well, the number of times you read the notes that were marked up online by Norbert, and Mark Miller will do the same thing. The number of points that were scored by some of these kids that they came to play, that like they weren't content with their first half,
right?
And then they showed up. Miller, the freshman, who had the 20 points, she had 18 in the second half. So it's just these moments that are being made up. That's going to help you steal the game there when all of a sudden you got one of your younger players putting up numbers that the other team's unable to control at that point.
And you look at these 3, 4, and 5 games. You had 55-52 in Division III. Then you go to Division IV. It was a 4-point game, 47-43. Laconia knocked off Cuba City. Again, it went basically right down to the end where Laconia was able to finish it off. And then the Division V game went to overtime. Right. But D4, again, I mean, that's what it was so good to see, because so often some of these games get one-sided. That's what made Saturday so. I mean, the whole day there was no garbage time, not one bit.
No,
even the 10-point D1, it was a tie game midway through the second half.
Right, and that's what you want. You don't want a blowout. I mean, for us,
it was great for high school basketball.
Yeah, and as viewers of the sport, applauding what these athletes are able to accomplish and their teams are able to do. You don't want a blowout. Both teams have earned that right to be there. You want to see them go back and forth and then finally see somebody bring the knockout punch. I mean, I was excited because I always get a little nervous on those championship Saturdays. Like, oh, man, what game might I turn off because it's a blowout and I don't have much invested in. I don't want to watch a blowout.
Right.
And right away out of the gates, you're in overtime in Division V.
Yeah.
So for Laconia, I mean, that was one of the better games because the game was tied 7 times. There's 9 lead changes. That's what you want, is this jumping back and forth. And the go-ahead basket doesn't come really till about a minute or a little bit less, when they get that. And, again, some younger players stepping up. Laconia, obviously leaving their mark, because I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's back-to-back, right, for Laconia?
I
believe they won last year at Division 4. Not 100% on that.
I think you're right.
We'll go with that. But,
I know
but
it's
again,
their second title overall, but I can't remember if they
thought it was back-to-back.
I think you may be right. You're exactly right. And then the number 4 seed wins in D5. Again, I think I would not be surprised to see a D4, a 5 seed win in the boys' side, but Albany Monticello beating the number 1 seed and then the number 2 seed and went in overtime. I mean, you talk about, overtime at the state championship. I mean, that is so cool.
Yeah, I think that's great. And for Albany Monticello, I believe this was their first year as a co-op
yes,
team.
It was.
And I also saw somebody, because you don't always know. We don't know all these teams way out of the area. Like
right.
I didn't know much about them, but I saw a little blurb on the post comments on the With Sports, and it was like, somebody better not underestimate this team. They beat Assumption. Played really well there, and that they were a 4, and Lena came through and did a good job, and I think just the back and forth game of that for some of these teams, being down there, Albany Monticello obviously is a co-op. I think that was Lena's first time down there, if I'm not mistaken, and the big shot that came with about 2.8 left, they drilled the 3 to tie it. It's cool, and one of those girls on Lena, she had finished with, I think, 21 points and 19 rebounds. That's a nice outing, even though you came up short in the game.
And I think something we'll talk about next week especially is in terms of growing the state tournaments, because I think as people that support high school sports, we want to see these become bigger and bigger and bigger. But one way to help is to have a great championship Saturday, and that's what happened last week on the girls' side. So again, congrats to all the winners, and I think, again, congrats to everyone putting on a really great show on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it was a big deal that those games were tight, and it just allowed the atmosphere to kind of create itself right off the gate. It's an overtime game. I think it was the first one in D5 on the girls' side.
Yeah.
I thought that's what the announcer said. It was the first time they ever went to OT in that division. So awesome, and props to the teams and players that got to be part of that.
And now we get set for the start of the boys' tournament. Are you going to predict all the winners like Coach Pieper did?
Are you ready to do that? We could do that to close it off. Or do you need to do?
If you do it, I will do my best.
Okay, we'll
I will not guarantee.
This will be for Chad and I are not big gamblers, but I will get him his.
Chad is a big gambler. That's a whole different story.
I didn't want to throw that out on the air for you, but I will get you.
Not a sports gambler.
We'll talk about points at the end, but I owe you a Mountain Dew if you beat me, and you owe me a coffee if I beat you. Fair enough.
We're going to take a break. We're going to work this out, and we're going to come right back and talk about the boys' state tournament starting tomorrow at the Kohl Center. Big high school sports show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Now you can organize and create lasting memories by converting your photos and memories into digital photos you can share with family and friends. Picks and Pieces will create your custom photo books and slideshows that are perfect for family gatherings, weddings, or any special events. You'll receive your finished product on an external hard drive or cloud service of your choice for easy viewing and sharing. Contact Melissa at Picks and Pieces Photo Management and Digital Organization at 446-0762. Email mel@picksandpieces.com.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes. That'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Wisconsin, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
Chad Holmes, along with Jeff Gress, Big High School Sports Show, Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. State Boys Basketball Tournament tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday at the Kohl Center, campus of the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And the tournament gets underway tomorrow with the Division III and the Division IV semifinals. And then on Friday, the Division V, Division II, and Division I semis. And then the 5 championship games coming up on Saturday. Shall we do it in terms of like the divisions tomorrow, then followed by the divisions on Friday?
Sure.
Go ahead. Let's start with Division III then. St. Thomas More is the number 1 seed. They take on number 4 seeded Prescott. St. Thomas More 27-1, Prescott 21-6. You got Lakeside Lutheran, who is 26-2, the number 2 seed, and number 3 seed Kiel, undefeated at 28-0. And it's interesting to look as well, because I always talk about how the state rankings are for entertainment purposes only, and they are. But to see how close they are in terms of getting the 4 top teams and then having the 4 teams that go to state. St. Thomas More was the number 1 ranked team in the state at the end of the regular season. Kiel was the number 2 ranked team. Then you had Dominican, did not make it. Then you had Xavier, number 4, did not make it. Number 5 was Lakeside Lutheran, who made it. And then Prescott was not in the rankings. So 3 teams ranked, 1 team not ranked. I have to admit, I don't know a lot about these teams to make a bold prediction, but
Let me give you some info, and then you make
give us some info.
All right, so on I don't know which game is first. I didn't look at the schedule. Who do you
always
got first?
1 and 4 is always the first one. Yeah.
Okay, so you got St. Thomas More, who's just been, kind of rolling over people at 27-1. They have a pair of D1 recruits. The one kid's averaging 23-11, the other averaging 23-8. So they fill it up that way in a lot of ways with that athleticism, and those guys are obviously on the radar because they're D1 schools want them. Prescott has a guy that's averaged about 21-10. I think they're going to be overwhelmed by that athleticism. So I think St. Thomas More is going to beat Prescott. And, again, why Prescott wasn't in the rankings, they're 21-6. So they have a handful of losses coming into here. The 2-3 matchup, Kiel, unblemished. And for Kiel and Lakeside Lutheran, they have an equalness about them in the sense they both got some solid guards and they both got a true big man. And I think that's where whichever guards or big man for that team play better is going to be the team that wins it. Lakeside Lutheran, though, which is who I'm going to go with in this whole thing, I'm going to take a shot at them. They lost all 4 starters and they lost in the division. They were state runners up last year. Lost all 4 starters, and they made it back again, which I like that resiliency. So I'm going to take them over Kiel, and I think that momentum is going to carry them in against St. Thomas More, and I'm going to make a bold prediction on the upset. Obviously, I could be 100% wrong here, but I'm going to take Lakeside Lutheran for winning the D3 championship.
I will take St. Thomas More just based on the athleticism and just to be a contrarian to you. So St. Thomas More.
That. You and Coach Pieper can hang out on that prediction, and I'll go by myself.
Division 4, number 1 seed Marathon, number 4 Kenosha St. Joseph, number 2 Mineral Point, number 3 Aquinas. Number 1, I'm going to talk a little bit about this Marathon Kenosha St. Joseph Catholic game because, again, I'm getting ready for it tomorrow night, live right here on Bull Falls Radio. Obviously, Marathon's record speaks for itself. It's a good conference. They played good non-conference. But the idea that this is going to be some sort of pushover is way off, because you look at Kenosha St. Joseph in terms of their conference. We talked about this, and you talked about this when you were a small school and a bigger. They're in the Metro Classic.
Yep.
We just talked about St. Thomas More. St. Thomas More was the champion of this conference that Kenosha St. Joseph is in. And the top 3 teams in the conference, as Kenosha St. Joseph finished in a tie for 4th at 7-7 in their conference, were all Division III teams. So again, that record, when you say, 19-9, that means they were 7-7 in conference. They were 12-2 in non-conference. Still got to go with Marathon because I think this team is ready. I just think they're so well coached. I think it's a veteran team. They've been challenged. I like Marathon. Mineral Point and Aquinas. Aquinas has just been so good in both boys and girls basketball for a long time. Mineral Point, I think, will be tough, though. I haven't gone that deep into it. And then you got to go with Marathon. You got to go with Marathon.
Right. Well, that's the big thing that I came up with out of this, and anything I read about all these teams was, especially St. Joe's and Aquinas. They play in conferences where they're playing levels up. And I don't know Mineral Point well, so I can't bank on anything. But I know for Marathon, which isn't to their fault because they are D4 and they're playing in a D4 with a couple D5s in there. But they go out and challenge themselves. So I know what Marathon has. I love Marathon in terms of their balance and just the way they share the ball. I just think it's fun to watch, and that comes through how they're coached, who they are as individuals. I agree with you. I don't think St. Joe's is going to be an easy one because they've challenged themselves in their conference.
They have seen everything.
Yes. So I think Mineral Point's going to beat Aquinas just based on what you see on paper. Marathon's going to beat St. Joe's, but then Merrill guy tried and true.
Yeah.
Marathon's winning it. So
we got 3 minutes to go in 3 divisions, so just make sure that we make this rather quick. Division 5, number 1, Marshfield Columbus Catholic. Number 4, Salon Springs. Number 2, Almond Bancroft. Number 3, Abundant Life Christian.
I don't know. You've been talking about Salon Springs, so a little bit worried about that. But I'm going with Columbus Cap and Almond Bancroft staying in Central Wisconsin. I will give you the first pick on who you want. I'll take the other one.
I'm taking Salon Springs to win it all.
Oh, are you? Okay.
I'm taking them.
Then I'm taking Columbus Catholic.
I think they're going to win it all. Okay. I was impressed with what I saw.
All right.
Division 2, number 1, Wisconsin Lutheran, undefeated, 28-0. Number 4, Nicolay, 24-4. Number 2, Pewaukee, trying to do what the girls did last weekend, 24-4. Number 3, West Salem, who got through that bracket with Mosinee and Wausau East, 25-3.
I think Wisconsin Lutheran's going to beat Nicolay. Nicolay's interesting quick because they have a couple kids from that Milwaukee Academy Science that played as freshmen, sophomores on that state runner-up team, and now they're shining there. But I think Wisconsin Lutheran's going to win that whole thing, even though Pewaukee's loaded. It'll be interesting. That'll be a great championship game. Who do you got?
I'm going to take Pewaukee. I just think that Pewaukee is always if you say Pewaukee, you got half a chance.
Yeah.
And then finally, Division 1, you got Arrowhead 26-2. Neenah, again, number 6 seed in the Section O, 21-7 overall, back for number 30. And then number 2, Kettle Moraine, and number 3, Marquette. Arrowhead is hard to go against, isn't it?
I'm picking Arrowhead for all the reasons that don't need to be stated right now.
I'm going to take Marquette. I'm going to listen to Pieper again. He seemed to think that Marquette... Was it Pieper that said something about Marquette?
He's picking Arrowhead, but he said Marquette's going to give him a run.
No, I'll go with Marquette.
Yeah, I think Marquette's going to beat Kettle Moraine. Even though, Kettle Moraine, I think, was coached by Trevon Hughes. And now either I think the guy that coached him at Northwestern Military Academy was his assistant, is either the head now. I'm not sure how that works, but it'll be an interesting. And give Neenah credit, the 6th seed, earning it down there.
And that's the second straight year, because weren't they a lower seed last year when they made it too?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's like some teams just know how to win in the playoffs, I guess.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have, again, you have a good mixture here of just some great things on paper from D1 with all the talent and hard-fought games you have in there. D2 has a ton of college talent. D3 has some comeback things, and I just think you're going to have a great Saturday.
Next week, we're going to have a lot on the plate. It'll be our last show of the year. We're going to go through a lot of stuff. So I think it'll be entertaining at the very least.
Last show is sad to say, but I'll end it with that.
So we'll look forward to that. Thanks to our guests again, Troy Pieper and Thomas Passineau. Thanks to our in-studio engineer, Ian Welsh, as well. I'm Chad Holmes with Jeff Gress. Join us again next week from 6 until 8. Big High School Sports Show, Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.